Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. Why is the face?
Sound.
Yeah, the outro sounded like it was, the intro
Underwater.
sounded like it was underwater.
Yeah, the ocean, the waves came in.
Uh-oh, really?
That was just Zoom, I think.
Just at the end, yeah.
I'm Amnon, your host for the next few hours, along with... Okay, Gal. Good morning.
Hello, everyone. What problems
Uh-oh.
already?
Let's see. Wait, let's see. And Nick is here.
Hey, good morning.
And Spence is here.
You're kidding, right? Now it's okay.
Talk.
Hello.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Hello.
With Gal, it was delayed. Let's finish this.
Yeah, well, I saw
Today,
this already. Yeah.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software, by DudeInIT.com, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear.
You know what I think is happening?
What?
This is, Spence will know a little bit about this. This is like the 1965 New York City blackout. The power cycle is just under 60 hertz, so everything runs just a little bit slower this morning.
No, you're okay. Let's see, Spence. Spence, talk. I want to see.
10, 9, 8, 7,
Yeah.
6, 5, 4.
Yeah, you're the way you are now, Gal.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4,
it's
5,
perfect
6.
now.
Welcome to the counting show.
I'm going to plug in my.
We're a Russian number station.
I'm going to plug in my kilovolt. I'll monitor the hertz and see what happens.
Yeah, that's exactly the issue. Running low on hertz this morning.
I need to see what it sounds like out there. Go ahead and talk.
About what?
What's stuck with
Why
you?
don't I hear anything?
About what?
What's stuck with
Why
you?
don't I hear anything?
About what?
Oh,
Stuck
Oh,
with
God.
anything.
About what?
Oh,
It's
What
starting.
did you do?
oh.
It's
What
starting.
did you do? What did you do? What did you do? What did you do? What did you do? He has no idea what he did. 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 I'm gonna go make some coffee.
Like a very, very bad
I'm gonna make
Beatles
some coffee.
production. Very, very bad Beatles
Hopefully by the
production.
time that
Very, very bad Beatles
hopefully by the time that
Very, very bad Beatles
hopefully by the time that
Very, very bad.
Oh, come on, Nick.
Very, very bad.
Oh, come on, Nick.
Very, very bad.
Come on, Nick.
Very, very bad.
Sounds like a Beatles song. Sounds like
Yeah,
a
that's
Beatles
what I
song.
said.
With the audience and everything. with the audience and everything.
What did you do, Amnon?
The audience and everything.
What did you do, Amnon? What did you do, Amnon?
Oh, man.
What did you do, Amnon?
Oh, man.
That is not coming from me.
I know where it's coming from. Sorry, guys.
Oh my goodness
Yeah.
gracious! See, you look at me. It wasn't my fault. I didn't do a damn thing.
No, so something messy with the.
Oh,
That was strange.
God.
Banana. I opened chat and it. I went to the main page.
It's yeah.
And so the video started.
The
and
video
audio
started
got
also, yeah.
routed.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
the
if you
crap? Why?
Yeah,
It
well, I mean, because it's feeding twice, and the video on with the chat is delayed, so that's where you get that. You can't have two unless you need to.
No, I know all that. I don't understand why it's routed.
Oh,
I'll figure it out later. So probably Shy played with
it's
the
the
routing.
banana. It's the bananas
Yeah, yeah. Ah,
and the oranges.
sorry, that was me, guys.
That's all right. It's
What
fine.
about the mango? I'm getting a steady pulse, a 1 second switch between 60 and 59.9 hertz. Just automatically back and forth once a second. Not really enough to cause a problem, but
Number 9. Number 9.
number
Number 9.
Number 9.
nine.
Number 9.
All right. I think we're good to go.
Smoke pot, everybody smoke pot, smoke pot, smoke pot.
What
everybody
song is
smoke
that?
pot. You don't know that song?
No. That's got to be a
it's fine.
60s song.
Oh yeah, it's a Beatles.
Oh.
It's
Is
one
it?
of those things
I
that's it's slurred enough that they got it through,
Interesting.
but it was the everybody knew that's what they meant.
Beatles smoke pot song.
No.
No.
They probably said it was something else. But
I
if you
am the
listen to it-
walrus. Okay.
And then
So-
if you play one album backwards, it's supposed to say, "I buried Paul, miss him, miss him."
Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. It's the DNS.
Oh.
Definitely.
Yeah, I forgot to
Definitely
restart it
DNS.
last night before I went to bed.
Yeah,
Ah.
DNS. Absolutely.
Okay. So you remember my story last week about Sarid's issue?
Yes.
This is now my walk of shame.
No, it's got nothing to do with shame. Come on.
Shame.
Figured it out,
Shame. Shame.
and it was an IP conflict on the DNS server.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
Always.
explain, God.
Yeah, I'll explain. So, if you all recall, everything works until suddenly something doesn't work, right? It's the worst type of malfunction you can have. And I've set up a bunch of scripts to capture whatever settings and values from the system whenever that happens. So Sarid, whenever it happens to him, he runs that script and collects stuff. And on top of that, I put on doing that, I discovered it was an IP conflict with the DNS server. So the local DNS server that's serving the local names and all that, there was an IP conflict on that. And that was causing a lot of issues inside the network. And so whenever that went down, at first, outgoing internet connection also went down because it was the sole DNS server. Fixed that, put a proper backup. The backup was going outside, but not too fast, so local addresses would be resolved. But still, from time to time, that DNS server would just blow away. Using those scripts, eventually I found out that the ARP table contains a different MAC address from time to time to the IP address. If I'm losing anybody, I'll explain what that is later.
ARP is a real pain.
It is what it is. It's not. It's not a pain. It's there.
Yeah.
But when you have the ARP table is where you can see if there's an IP conflict. So, but the problem is, usually MAC addresses, you plug them to some sort of resolver, they're registered, and you can know if they're from which one manufacturer they were. Here, the MAC address was a virtual one, one that is auto-generated. It's like an internal IP address. It can be anything, and it doesn't state who that machine is. And because that machine wasn't a regular Windows machine, I couldn't just log into it and see its name or whatever. So we were at a loss. Who's grabbing that IP? So I ran Wireshark to capture the network line. I put on Wireshark has a command line tool called T-Shark. I put it on a loop, 20 files of 10 megabytes. So I always had 200 megabytes capture rotating. And I told him, whenever you have an issue, you click this script. That script will copy all of the history. And so whenever I come back, whenever you call me back, I can look at the files. One or two or three iteration of these issues, so it captured. And when I had time, I went in and we caught the DHCP discussion where that IP is served from the DHCP server. And I was floored because we've set everything in the DHCP static. DHCP shouldn't allow us, the server shouldn't have allowed us to use an IP twice. Yes, the IP is static on the machine, but we also set it in the environment. So, sorry, I couldn't set it in the environment because I'm using the same MAC address. It's one machine running a couple of IPs, a couple of services on the IP. So it's not like on the DHCP server, I wrote down that number as being part of it. But the reason I chose that number is because I couldn't find it in the DHCP server in the first place. That's where I made my first mistake. When looking at the list of leases that DHCP has, always check the offline servers as well. It was his wife's phone. And when we set it up, she wasn't at home. And so there was never an IP conflict. But whenever she was at home and hooked up to the Wi-Fi, everything broke. And the number one major complainer who noticed that everything was broken was his wife. So it was like this magic loop, this terrifying magic circle of events. And yeah, once we sniff those DHCP traffic, it says, yeah, it's a Samsung phone. This is the model. Then we could identify, okay, we now know who is receiving that lease and why there's the conflict. Figure it out, change that IP, problem solved. So, oh boy.
Yeah.
Always check the offline list.
Now,
so can you point out what this man looked like in a police lineup? Can you point out what the DNS looked like in a police lineup? The man that hurt you, Colin?
Oh, I will know it when I see it.
It started as a joke when I first got into IT 2 years ago, and somehow it has manifested into literally every issue that I've ever had in my life.
It's definitely the DNS.
I mean, it's just insane.
Yep.
Yeah. DNS is no fun.
Well, it's not that it's no fun. I mean, DNS is a very interesting technology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very interesting, but it is a bear to try and troubleshoot, as Gull's just described, with having to constantly sniffing the network and figuring out what exactly is happening. It's a real pain. So did the phone have a static IP?
It was served by the DHCP server
prior to when you'd set it up, though.
Yeah, but the thing is, so when I set up the IP, you missed that. When I set up the IP,
no, I heard it. I had you on speaker.
So I just the IP was there in the lists.
Yeah, but
it was in the offline because the device wasn't on the network, and I missed it. It was filtered.
Let me ask you this though: when that, so you set then you gave it a static reservation to a different MAC address. Why? Then maybe this isn't how it works. When the next time that phone connected, shouldn't the DHCP server have said, "Hey, this address is reserved. Let me give you a new dynamic IP"? Or is that not how?
No, because when you have a static IP, right, it doesn't go to DHCP and talk with the DHCP
you're right.
server, so that's no problem.
Yeah, because it's
problem
not even
starts when you
it.
start to mix static IPs with DHCP, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I was smart about it. Apparently, I missed out.
So you didn't have a pool set aside for DHCP and another pool set aside
No,
for static?
now there is. Now I separated
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But it's not that. It was a statically assigned DHCP list, right? It was on a list that always got the same address. So it's not like the DHCP could have been smart about it or anything.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean that's the first time
This is shooting yourself in the leg, basically. This is exactly what happened to me.
That's what I don't have any static IPs. I just use DHCP assignments because I got messed up years ago, and it's like I wasted so much time to figure out what I did, and then
Right.
yeah, so I just leave it
So
as all
that's the
static.
thing. This
No,
wasn't an
static.
option for me. I had
Yeah.
to have a static
Static.
IP,
Yeah.
not an assigned one, because I'm using the same MAC address for multiple IPs. There's a VM running on it, and
Right.
it's using the MAC address. So yeah,
that's the first time that I've seen such a thing as static but through DHCP. I mean, when Gal did
static
it here,
is.
I said, "What in the hell? What? It's not static. It's coming out of the pool." I always had a separate pool for DHCP because everything else
Yeah.
is static. And I'm saying, I don't understand. So DHCP, and it says, okay, this is static from within here. I need to reserve it for that. So I still don't understand what's the up. What am I trying to say? The good thing about doing it
What's
this
the
way
pro of
versus
using this?
telling it, versus saying,
You
no,
manage it in a single place.
well, you still manage it.
Don't give a single static IP in your network, right? Use only DHCP,
Yeah.
but manage it. You can still use the same IP to get there by managing it in a central place. One list.
All right.
And then if you need
Yeah,
if
but in
happen
Amnon's
to
environment, the way
switch-
he's built his environment, it really is for him easier to just do it manually. It
No,
is.
I understand.
yeah,
Understand
but
completely.
because I remember, well, years ago, Amnon, you and I going through and looking at subnetting and all that, and it was you had some pretty complicated stuff going on,
Yeah.
especially
and-
with your failover. Especially you wanted to have
right.
easy failover. So
And I got
Yeah.
used to it. So you
Yeah.
set up about 50 IPs for the DHCP, and everything else is static. So
and
When
you
you-
had a lot of subnets
yeah,
at one point. I mean, small subnets,
right.
5 or 6.
Yeah,
sub-
back then. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember sitting down because what you had made me go learn more because I didn't know enough really. Seriously, I mean, I looked at this stuff. Wow, subnetting to this level, I just never did it. To where you have your,
Yeah, it's a lot simpler
your
now.
network ID and then your broadcast ID and then 3 actual IPs.
Yeah, it's a lot simpler now, but still, I get that's how I got used to do things.
I'm glad
So it works.
it was a good education for me because I just didn't run into it.
So, Gal, are you saying that right now her phone has nothing to do with the word static anywhere, or
No, it's DHCP. The
Okay.
list, the IP assigned was from the DHCP server, from the router. Once we changed that,
Yeah.
reconnected the phone, that's it. Everything was okay.
and I
Is
guess
there
so.
such a thing as a stagnant IP?
Like,
Yeah, if you make the lease for a year, I guess.
One that doesn't get a lot of traffic. It goes stagnant.
Hey, Jason.
it's, protected housing.
That's it. Section 8,
Yeah.
Section 8 IP addresses.
Done paying for those stagnant IPs. Enough.
That's the next IP. That's the next ad. You got some. Are you paying for stagnant IP addresses?
That'll be an IPv6 feature.
We had an interesting
Squatting, IP squatting.
Going to random people's houses and screwing up their whole DHCP table with a
It's
device.
like living in the UK. You go on vacation, you come back, somebody's in your house, and you can't kick them out.
we had an interesting situation, and it was also kind of like DNS related.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
The list server, the mailman server, has been blocked by Simpatico. What a situation. Simpatico is Ron was saying Simpatico is not so sympathetic.
Yeah.
So some of the email that's going out of there, because there's a couple of websites on it, would not get to Canada, or will get there every now and then. So I had no luck in asking them to whitelist it or to clear it. So I said to Ron, Ron, why can't we take those emails, there's not that many of them, and route them through the mail server? And he said, let me look into it. There's really no reason why we couldn't do it. So he worked on it. He tried different things. First time it didn't work. It stayed the same thing. Second time it didn't work. Third attempt, it sort of it did not create anymore. I couldn't see anything in the queue. So I said, okay, it went, but I can't see it anywhere. And then I'm getting calls from Marshall, and he's saying, we're not getting any orders. But oh. So I start looking through the logs, and I don't know how I stumbled on it, that it said that it was rejected because the name .local did not exist in DNS, and it showed an IPv6 IP address. I called Ron and I said, Ron, I think there's a problem here with IPv6. And he started looking and he said, why is it looking for IPv6? I don't understand. I said, well, why don't we give it an IPv6? He says, there isn't any. These are the IP addresses that machines communicate between them. They're 192.168. And there was nothing. And he said, you know what? In that case, let's just take all their email and move it this way. And that worked. Instead of trying to figure out which one goes here and which one goes there, it was just sending it directly to the mail server. And so far, I guess everything is okay because I did not hear any complaints. But it's interesting. It seems like the 192.168 ranges don't have an IPv6. Is that correct? I mean,
that's IPv4, so there's
that I know, but they don't.
It's completely different technology.
I understand. It's a completely different technology out there on the internet too. But you have an IPv4 and an IPv6 assignment for the same machine,
if you choose to.
Yes. Well, but even if you choose to do it to your local network, there is no, I mean, we know 192.168.0.1 is an IPv4 private IP.
Mm-hmm.
There is no IPv6 to assign to your local network that machines can talk to each other.
There's a translation.
Yeah, there's NAT, just the same way that there's NAT with IPv4.
Well,
no, there's no NAT in IPv6.
There's not?
Well, there's so many IPs in that one little network that you don't even need that. But the problem is
there's a section of the addressing that is local only.
In the IPv6?
So that's how it knows that it's not a public IP address that you can browse to on the internet?
So there's a section that is assigned outside of your network, and there's a section that is assigned inside of your network. So there's no natting. Basically, every IP, every address is a live address, theoretically.
Right.
Right? So those 32 bits from, I think it's the whole 32 bits from the IPv4, that's basically just private subnetting completely.
Right.
So That's
I
at least that's the way I understand it. I've never played with IPv6 other than trying to identify a few addresses. So I haven't dove into it.
It was just strange to see that it said it couldn't find the host, and the host is the main mail server, and it does exist. And just after noticing that it said type is quadruple capital A's, that means it's IPv6. I said, okay, when what's a quadruple? He said, oh, yeah, that's IPv6. Why doesn't it? Anyway, it was very interesting, and hopefully everything is okay now. But it was strange. Anyway, here's something. I mean, Gal, you said you started using Edge. I used it a little bit. I know you guys use it, but here's what Microsoft is. The Microsoft said this week it plans to run an experiment in its Edge web browser where it will intentionally disable an important performance and optimization feature in order to enable more advanced security upgrades in what the company is calling Edge Super Duper Secure Mode.
That's not what they're really calling it, really.
Well, that's what it says.
Jesus.
Announced today by Jonathan Norman, Microsoft Edge Vulnerability Research Lead. The idea behind the new Super Duper Secure Mode is to disable support for JIT, just in time.
They're hiring children. They're hiring children.
Yeah.
These are 12-year-olds. Super duper mode, right? Yeah.
To disable support for just in time inside V8, the Edge browser JavaScript engine. JIT, while unknown to most end users, plays a crucial role in all of today's web browsers. JIT works by taking JavaScript and compiling it to machine code ahead of time. If the browser needs the code, it gains a significant speed boost. If it doesn't, the code is discarded. So they're doing away with that in order to make it more secure. I guess we'll have to wait a few weeks and see what did it do. And he doesn't say anything here that JIT is the problem. They're just saying that they are disabling it. That's the idea behind.
Well, they'll also learn how much performance
they will.
Actually adds, right? So it'll be interesting if it's needed, because if it's not needed, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And talking about browsers, where was it? About Chrome. It's interesting. Google Chrome now will no longer show whether a site you are visiting is secure, and only show when you visit an insecure website.
That makes sense.
Okay.
To further push web developers into only using HTTPS on their sites, Google introduced the protocol as a ranking factor. Those not hosting a secure site got a potentially minor hit in their Google search results rankings. It has appeared to have worked as, according to the HTTPS encryption of the web of Google Transparency Report, over 90% of all browser connections in Google Chrome currently use an HTTPS connection. So over 90%, that means maybe 10% do not.
Firefox, that gives you that very cryptic warning if you go to a site that's not HTTPS.
Yeah.
And it's annoying because you realize, hey, this is the place I used to go to all the time. But it's also alarming to see that there are sites that still aren't.
The thing, I think, what's bad about this is users got used to see the lock
Right.
And if they go to do something and they want to be secure, they want to see that there's a lock. Now they're not going to show the lock anymore. So I guess
good.
now we have to get used to if in Chrome you do not see the lock, that means it's secured. Kind of like
this type of change. This type of change is actually a good thing. If it's going to cause people to pay closer attention, good, right? What I'm concerned about is still there is no clear. So now I think, and I love the fact that I can use Let's Encrypt to encrypt my personal websites, right? But I would rather have Let's Encrypt encrypted sites, right? Be marked separately and differently than others, than other legit root CAs, non-automated root CAs.
Maybe this is a step in the right direction. Like we've reached the threshold, where now the awareness of it and the implementations have gotten much better. So,
yeah. From time to time, I can tell you, my wife sees some ads on Facebook, right? And
which are all legitimate, by the way.
What?
Which are all legitimate, by the way, because they screen them.
That's the thing, right? So she goes into a store, sees some fantastic deal, and she knows before she even decides to add something to a cart, right? She sends me the URL and I check it. And so in the past, it was really easy. If it doesn't have an HTTPS, this isn't a legit site. I don't care if they are a legit site. We are not doing any business with them, right? And most of these were just templated, some template of some e-shopping front end, like a pre-built package. They all look very much the same, and they lack identifying traits like addresses, phones, and always checking with who is, and Wayback Machine, they were less than 6 months old. So nothing legit about them. But now they've started to use HTTPS. And the fact, because Let's Encrypt is a viable and great option, and yes, use it. But the fact that now they are using HTTPS means if you were only looking for that lock, then that's not enough. And so taking out the lock is okay. Warning that the lock is missing is even better. So it is a step in the right direction. I just hope that eventually they'll figure out a way of marking Let's Encrypt as a personal, like personal attesting. It's not insecure, but it also does not identify. So it's without identification. It's anonymous, right? It's secure but anonymous. But so make sure we identify secure and anonymous.
God, Let's Encrypt is not the only one that does this. There's a lot of providers there that have SSL
completely free.
What?
Let's Encrypt does it completely free.
I understand, but I mean, there are others that cost $3 a year and $5 a year, and they are not to identify who you are. They're doing the same thing that Let's Encrypt is doing, because you don't. So they are writing somebody else's. They're not real root CA.
Yeah.
So
there needs to be these two symbols.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're losing the lock because we don't need it, because everything needs to have the lock. Now we need some sort of identification. And that identification is important, right? Something that says, hey, look, Twitter, Facebook, all of the social media, they're doing it, right? With the verified accounts or the blue check mark or something next to the name, right? It's the same thing. It also needs to be that way for the websites, right?
We could use a form of biofeedback like electric shock and have the shock be more intense. The more vulnerable you are at that site, the worse the shock. That'd be fun to be the person on the other end of that, watching that stuff happen. You know,
So
the one that actually
Microsoft
applies the
is going to
shock.
run a
Spence, you mean?
Microsoft is going to run an experiment with Edge.
That's it. Yeah.
You're mean,
Yeah.
Spence. Yeah.
Oh well. You mean if I get an email from Wells Fargo telling me I need to log into my account to correct something, that I should just if I don't get a shock, everything is okay, right? We got that scam this week.
You
the
will
Wells
get a
Fargo scam.
shock. It will
Yeah.
be just delayed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it'll be a shock in that when you when you find out what I did. My brother-in-law is fighting now a identity protection disaster where someone purchased building materials at a Home Depot in North Carolina. He lives in Georgia. He's disabled. He didn't go there. He didn't open an account. Went through the whole thing with them, telling him that they were telling him he owed $20,000. He said, "I didn't," and their fraud department said, "Oh, you're right. This is fraud." They did it again for $30-something thousand, and he just got process served. He lives on a hill down in the suburbs of Atlanta. He's disabled. He has to drive down. He can't walk down the hill. He's on his way driving down the hill. There's a guy standing at the bottom of his driveway, served him with papers. They're suing him. He has LifeLock, and LifeLock said, "Well, we can't catch everything." Somebody opens credit in your name, right? Isn't that like the easiest flag to get? And they missed it. So he's
Wow.
I believe their slogan is, "We can't identify all transactions at every business."
That's right.
That's literally their slogan.
Yep. The best thing is put a freeze on your
Yes.
credit
Yeah.
reports.
Yeah. But you remember the commercial that they had in the beginning where where
Yeah.
the CEO put his social security number on a truck and drove it around?
Right.
And then you find out later his identity was stolen.
Wait, what happened?
The founder of LifeLock.
How
That-
long ago?
that's-
was this?
that's
One of his original ad campaigns was to put his own social security number on a banner on a truck and drive it around the town. LifeLock. I'm so happy with it. I trust. Here's my social security number.
And somebody stole his identity?
And people stole his identity.
That's freaking phenomenal.
How long did it take from the ad campaign to the stolen identifier?
I don't know. I think they
identity
tried to
report?
keep it
No,
quiet.
it took some time. I remember that. That was when we were still on the radio.
LifeLock's
It's
CEO
because-
identity was stolen 13 times.
And back then,
Well-
the technology that those bad actors have today did not exist. So today they would have done it probably in no time. Back then, it took some work.
So the first person that stole his identity was in June 2007. Some guy used his identity to obtain a $500 loan from a check cashing company.
Oh.
$500?
Yeah, well, because I guess
Payday
it
loan.
obviously worked. They could only go through a check cashing company. That's one of those predatory,
Yeah,
like
payday loans.
payday loan.
Yeah.
I mean, those companies don't actually verify anything. They're just
No, they don't
They're-
care.
shady as hell.
But
Somebody opened up a Singular wireless account in his name. Somebody also opened a Verizon account for $186. This was all very small because anything larger would have gotten taken. Wow.
Yeah, but it happened.
But
It
not
did,
any
but-
not any less annoying.
Yeah, it's still annoying, but I mean, the fact that he put his social security number out there and the most they got was $500. That is pretty impressive.
No.
Well, their thing at the time was claiming that they would stop
at that.
these things from happening.
They put it on their freaking homepage.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Todd Davis. This is my social security number. I mean, that's ballsy.
I told my
Yeah.
brother-in-law, I said he
Credit
needs
is
to.
high.
Yeah. I told my brother-in-law, I said, you need to take advantage. If they say they'll fight for you, then they need to fight for you because they screwed up. You shouldn't have to hire a lawyer. They should handle this.
They won't, though. Well, actually, they handle a certain amount of liability or something like
Well, it's
that.
supposed to be $1 million liability, whatever that
Yeah.
means.
Yeah. How do you determine liability?
Right. Well,
Yeah, but Do they step in when it reaches 1 million, or
No, I think they'll litigate it up to a cost of 1 million, like out of their pocket.
Yeah, after a
Which
million.
probably takes about
that's it.
30 minutes, right?
Oh,
Hire the right lawyer. It's like your retainer is $1 million. Well,
yeah.
I'm like you. I have a freeze, a permanent freeze on all my credit that I have to
Yep.
unlock. So,
That-
and it's
Yeah,
a
I
pain
did
in
it
the
on
pain
all
in the neck.
four.
What do you say?
I did it on all 4 credit bureaus.
What's the fourth one again? I keep forgetting the name.
I never remember. I always need to
Yeah,
look
it's a
them up.
weird. It's like you almost think it's like not what it is, but and I was astounded to find out that there were 4. It's not as popular. I've talked to like when I recently got a loan, I asked about the fourth one, and I said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, did you know there's a fourth one?" No, this was the credit manager didn't know about it. So either that or he was lying.
Well, I didn't know that
I think
there
it has
was
to
one.
do with the region, and some of them are regional or something. I don't know.
Maybe the type of loan,
Yeah.
they specialize in. I think they were actually some type of a monitoring business that made themselves into a reporting entity.
Anyway,
I was going to ask Amnon. I have a quick story
okay, go ahead.
about Starlink. Anybody keeping up with Starlink?
Yeah, I have a good buddy that actually has it up in the Anger area, and games on it. And
All I can say is, wow. I mean,
it's he. So he. I think I talked about him. We'll get him on the show at some point. Maybe next week I'll message him. Actually, not next week. I'll be out of town.
their subscriber base is up 25%.
So
they started with 1,600 they have more than 1,600 functioning satellites now. And they said one of the game changers for them is a lot of them are in much lower orbits, which is great because that affects latency.
So they're
And-
also introducing a new technology. So right now, all of the way that the satellites all talk is they all link through ground stations, all of them. So think about this: you have 2 satellites.
Yeah, so it's an extra bounce. Yeah.
I'm going to say right next to each other. They're literally not right next to each other, but you've got 2 satellites right next to each other. For satellite 1 to talk to satellite 2, they both have to communicate at the ground. They're introducing
mesh.
They're introducing some sort of protocol where the satellites
Yeah.
will now be able to talk to each other. So the latency will be even less significant because now there's some laser. I got an email about it and he sent it to me. But he games on it, plays very latency sensitive games like Call of Duty and whatnot, and has no issues. 30 milliseconds, 45 milliseconds latency, which is incredible.
45.
Wow.
They're down. They said wired broadband is around 14 milliseconds average. Starlink is 45, and that the Usenet and Viasat are 600 to 800 milliseconds.
Well, that's your latency to your provider. But when you're talking about an online service, sometimes he's got better latency than I do. Yeah, which is crazy. I'll have 50 milliseconds ping in a Call of Duty match. He's got 35. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So their average download speed now is 97 meg and upload is 13.
Yeah, he loves it.
Incredible.
Because he's very, very rural area of North Carolina in Johnston County, and his only option was CenturyLink DSL, which was expensive and slow. Yeah. So I believe at this point he's canceled his DSL completely. He had 2 DSL lines bonded. He's canceled his DSL and he's got Starlink, and he couldn't be. He can now stream content in 720p. It's literally changed his life. It's amazing.
Well, they're working on their upgrade because they have to hire astronauts. They need to connect these all by Cat7 cables to each other.
You talk about a major hang up in space. Did you? Speaking of that, did you see the issue with the space station?
Like it's falling out of the sky or what?
No. So there was a report last week that there was an issue with the space station that caused it to go 45 degrees off course.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And NASA goes, oh, well, that's not a big deal. Well, then the report came out. It was actually 540 degrees off course. It did 3 barrel rolls in space.
the space station came very close to
How
self-destructing
can you
itself
be
last week.
540 degrees off course? Is that like
It-
going around once and another third?
It went around itself. Yes, it went around 2.5 times.
Wow.
Yeah. So literally the space station almost self-destructed 2 weeks ago with a bunch of astronauts on it. Don't know why, but yeah, there was a big issue.
There are companies spooling up now.
Wait. There were astronauts on there. You know
Correct.
the issue. Somebody
DNS?
rerouted the DNS server.
Oh,
That's it.
freaking static IPs.
Yeah,
That's it.
somebody
They
played with
lost
the
control
router.
of- The one thruster had a static IP, and that was it. Couldn't get to it. So they fired the ones close by, and it made them go, of course. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I read that this week. I was like, damn, that's
Scary.
That's nuts.
There are
Yeah, very
some,
scary.
some companies now spooling up for building orbital laboratories and so orbital habitats. One of them is this inflatable thing. It's fascinating. Actually using it, parts of the International Space Station uses this technology. But they talk about the ISS as though it was a kid's toy compared to the kind of stuff they want to put up there. Because they said this is really just a cobbled together thing that it's great. They keep adding to it, to keep making it better, but it is really held together with clips and wire and glue.
Oh, it makes
That's just
sense.
not- yeah,
When did it
it's-
launch? 95? I mean,
Yeah, so it's really it's getting old.
well, at
and-
some point they'll need to
Yeah,
put
but
a new
Nick,
there and
in
destroy it.
95, it was the coolest shit.
Oh yeah, oh it's still cool.
Oh, I'm saying the reason it's cobbled together, look at what technology has done in the last 25
Yes,
years. I mean,
absolutely.
Not only
And-
that, at that time, just speaking about international cooperation at that time, that was nuts.
Yes.
Hmm.
If they can sort out now the new, they need a new heavy lift vehicle, and what is it? Musk has
Falcon
one.
9.
They've got something going, and also Blue Origin, I think, is talking about a heavy lift vehicle that will be able to put much bigger pieces into orbit, which would be great.
So back
Reusable
to
heavy lift. Because
Back
up
to-
till now, only small rockets have been reusable. The large ones haven't been recoverable, and they're working on making those recoverable.
back to Starlink for a second. I'm not the biggest fan of Elon Musk. A lot of the stuff he says is bullshit, and a lot of his stuff doesn't come to fruition. But you've got to give the devil his due. Starlink has absolutely, at least as of right now, completely lived up to its expectations. What's shocking to me is why nobody else, other companies could have done this. And it's amazing that it took him to do it. I mean, the idea is we've had satellites we've had satellites orbiting since what, the 60s? I mean, it's not like it's this brand new idea. It's just
late
nobody-
50s.
late
Late
50s.
50s, yeah.
Nobody, I guess nobody had the insight to do it. But like for example, you look at Richard Branson. Virgin could have done this 20 years ago, at least started the process if they wanted to. Virgin's been doing stuff in space for the better part of 20 years. It's been pretty amazing to see what Starlink has done.
Microsoft actually had Bill Gates, not necessarily Microsoft, had the concept of the small Earth orbiting satellite with Iridium. But never made money. I mean, it works, and it's not widely adopted.
GE built all of those satellites back in the 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s. GE could have done something like this themselves if they wanted to. It's just
like you said,
It took
a lot of
somebody with a
companies
lot of
could
money
have.
to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, for sure. But I mean, it's just it is a technology that does what it says and says what it does. It's pretty astonishing. I mean, it's complicated, but it's not really that complicated. It's just low orbital
I
satellites.
read a commentary on this that said, imagine if NASA had been tasked with doing that.
Oh my God. It'd be
What it would have
You'd
cost if they could ever do it.
You have to put an
Oh.
80-meter dish in your backyard and with a with a 4-horsepower rotor. I mean, it would be a disaster.
Yeah.
It'd be
Oh,
like the
man.
dish they used to get the images back off the freaking moon landing.
But you know, it would work. But
Yeah,
it would
all
take
right.
it would cost a fortune. That's all.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
who put GPS in place?
Military.
NASA.
Originally the military, but GE built all those satellites. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
It wasn't,
No, but
GE
NASA-
built every
NASA-
NASA participated in the launch vehicles, but they were not responsible for the system.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a secret military system. It wasn't announced to the public until after it had been used for many years. And then they didn't turn off the encryption for general use by the public. We were not given the complete key until the first Gulf War, when in order to give soldiers handheld GPS coordinate receivers to get them to work properly in the field, they were basically consumer versions. They turned off that last bit of encryption to make them all very accurate, and suddenly everybody's GPS got more accurate. And we revealed that after the war, until after the war was over.
Hmm.
Now they're working on the next generation, because they said the existing GPS system is too easily hacked or disrupted. You could take a satellite out and really mess everything up. So,
All right, Spencer, you ready for specials?
I have it open.
You do.
I do have it open. It's blank, but I have it open.
Ta-da.
No, I do have it open here. And I stumbled across a very funny site called unnecessaryinventions.com. And I put up on the lead page here some examples of some of the go to this page. I encourage you. It's a hoot. Just look through some of the stuff, which is absolutely.
Yeah,
and I
he's
love the
very
guy.
creative.
The guy that hosts
follow
the page has the best kind of partially in shock, passive looks. You never only once did I see him smile. Most of the time, it's like, and he's got this look on his face, like what? But very funny. Mask suspenders. So it's a set of suspenders to hold your mask on, right? That's pretty clever. Shower curtain towel. Think about, well, how does the shower curtain stay dry to be used as a towel? Well, that doesn't matter. Vote from home booth. So you can do your mailing ballot at home from a secure location. That's great. My favorite one was this: motor blades. It's a ceiling fan for your car. Amnon, you want to get one of these? This is great. And then we could use this. Lately, there's been a lot of crying in politics, have you noticed? With testimonies and other people, oh, this is so bad when this happened. I couldn't help myself and cry. People getting up on microphone crying. Here we go. Sobbing spectacles, little sponges to soak up the crying. And then I'd love to see somebody actually using this. Concert cam cap. It's a cell phone, a mobile phone holder. It's really fun. Go there. It's really worth a laugh. You'll stay a while and it'll be fun. So today we went to some of our friendly alternative shopping sites, and first thing I went to was Newegg, and they had some good stuff. Now keep in mind that all of the things you see on this page, and there's a link to the main page there at the top, Newegg, are the what do they call it? They stole the term from Fry's. I guess now the Fry's out of business, but it's kind of like not doorbusters, but it's like that. Specials that are good for the rest of today. So this stuff is only good today for these prices. But they had some interesting stuff. I've got a very sophisticated dash cam. They says it's intended for Uber drivers because it has a forward cam and an inside cam built in. So monitors you and the passenger and forward, and has it built-in GPS, and I don't know what else, but it's $169, and that's normally $219. They've got a wavelength US 3.0 universal dual display docking station. Now, this is not made to look sleek and slimline. This is like a lab type thing, this box, but man, it's loaded with stuff. So different types of connections for USB A and what's the other side called? I have it on my the backside of my docking stations or my hard drive docks. But you've got USB-C, USB 2, USB 3. It's got HDMI. It's got gigabit Ethernet. It's got audio ports. It's got DVI. It's got an adapter to go to VGA if you need it. $65. And this is normally $165. So it's $100 off the price of this box. Next one is a Creality Ender, official Creality Ender 3 V2 upgraded 3D printer with integrated structural design software. $239, and that's about $110 off. Then you got an Aukey PC LM1E 1080p webcam with noise reduction stereo microphone, $25, and that's normally $37. So if that's anywhere close to being a good cam for $25, that's a good deal. Another docking station from Aukey. This is a USB-C adapter, hub, Ethernet, HDMI, USB 2, USB 3. I don't know if there's USB 2. It might be just USB 3. 4K adapt, 4K HDMI for $29. We've got 16 gig of DDR4 3600 PC desktop memory for $79, which is normally $91. Got a, now this is not a desk. This is a desktop, standing desktop adapter, but it's got two levels, which is nice. It's got a level for the monitor and laptop, and another level for the keyboard. $39. Now this is 67% off the regular price. It's normally $119 for $39. We've got PNY 1 terabyte PCI Express solid state drive for $119, normally $129. This is another interesting device here I found, and Ansel. Ansel is a known maker of automotive electronic devices. They make code readers and other things for cars, diagnostic tools. A smart digital meter, OBD2, heads-up display with whatever your car does with OBD2. There's a constant stream of information, speed, all kinds of different consumption rates, shows how all your sensors are working and all that stuff. This will give you a display. You set this up on your dashboard, and it will read. You plug the adapter into the OBD2 port on the car, and it will give you a live picture of all different kinds of statistics from the car. Tachometer. What's that?
OBD.
OBD, onboard
detail
diagnostics.
that it does not report.
What's that?
Accumulated mileage.
Really? Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's weird.
That
Most
is
cars
terrible.
will do that with a trip. You can either do it through a trip odometer or the main odometer. But you're right. Yeah, I don't know why they don't do that. Maybe because it would open up a way for it to be hacked. Because that's the
Well, I
one
don't
thing
know.
in a car that's got to be safe is the
All I wanted was some
Absolutely.
sort of automation that will let me know, via phone or something.
how much
Mileages.
miles.
But I can't. There's no way of doing it.
You can if you have a GPS tracker. You can
Well,
actually log
again,
them,
there'll
but
be
it's not from
there'll
the
be a
actual.
drift between the actual numbers. So
Yes, because you're measuring GPS distance, not actual driven distance from the car itself. But
So
I mean, that
this-
would be one
so-
way to do it. Like if you wanted to make sure your kid didn't go somewhere that they were supposed to go. I drove right home from school, and you find out there's an extra 20 miles on there.
yeah, every phone now has that. That's easy.
Yeah.
So
You
this
just look
picture,
at the Google history.
this picture of the device was taken when the person was going 90 miles per hour.
Well, that's a speedometer, not an odometer. So 90, that's 90 miles an hour. That's pretty good. Maybe they had thrown it off a building or something. It was in the process of falling. I don't know. All right, we have another deal on.
No, it's probably 90 kilometers.
Maybe it.
Uh-oh. What happened?
that connects to
What is
my
that?
OBD.
You went away, and Gal froze. I think something is on my end.
Oh,
Here it is coming
Well.
back. What in the world happened there? Okay, go ahead. Go back to
so if you go to the website and look at this product, they'll show you different graphic representations of the type of screens you can display and all the different things that are actually monitored that you can display. It's really quite extensive, plus a list of what they are. Standard OBD2 type diagnostics, tests, meters, things like that. You can measure you can watch your oxygen sensors as you drive. And I did one time need to use this type technology. I have something called Blue something. I can't remember the name, but it is a OBD2 Bluetooth adapter. You can plug into the OBD2. It's powered by the OBD port. And then you run the app on your phone and you can look at codes, you can do diagnostics. It gives you repair information. It's really a good tool. Like, Blue something. But very well worth it. More expensive than the junk you can find on Amazon. It was about $100 to buy it, but it was well worth it. And you keep updating the software, which is nice, and the firmware. But I needed to monitor, I was putting a new oxygen sensor in a car, or I was diagnosing whether it was in fact the oxygen sensor that was bad. In order for me to tell, I had to look at the stats of the before and after oxygen sensors on this Honda Accord and drive it while I'm driving it. So I was able to record a window. I got on the highway, got up to 65, said record, and it watched as I drove for that 10 minutes and I got off the highway. I could tell at the end of that my oxygen sensor was actually, but my catalytic converter was bad and that I had to replace it. And then when I replaced it, I monitored it again and it showed that it was working properly. So it was very handy. There's a lot of good stuff in OBD2 that you can use if you, even just to give you a clue as to what's wrong. Sometimes, and they're getting better and better. You can actually run a test from a lot of these now. You say, all right, well, run this stress test on my evaporator, the evaporator tank and return and all that for the way they reuse gas fumes that come off the fuel system. You can actually measure how well it works and look and see if you have a problem, you have a leak. It'll tell you if you have a leak. Okay, so we have one other PCI Express solid state drive from Western Digital. This is a 500 gig for $54.99, which is normally $79. This deal on this HP Chromebook, it is a, don't remember what processor it is. The processor is okay. It is an eMMC 32 gig, but I think it can be upgraded to I think it is a SATA port. It's not but it's $119, normally $230. So half off. You could get this and repurpose it to run something else. But what a deal. This is a very inexpensive entry-level laptop that runs Chrome OS.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Holy Stone. That sounds like a weird name, but it's a very popular brand that I've seen on Amazon for drones, and they have a lot of good stuff. But this is a small drone, compact. Now, this is a good training one because it's got good guards for the propellers, and it does have a camera. It's not going to be a gimbaled camera. It's just a fixed camera. It's something. If you want to train yourself on how to use a drone, this is a good one to go with. Got a lot of auto hover. That's very important now. Or auto land and auto takeoff that you don't have to go through. It's just you press the button, it'll come up and stop.
So you don't crash it.
2 feet off the ground. The first one I got was defective, and I thought it was me. And every time it would take off in one direction and crash. And I couldn't control it. I kept resetting it, didn't work. Sent it back, and then the next one I got, it had like 4 modes. It had beginner's mode, 2 learning modes, and then pro mode, where it turned off all the helpers. And I never got that far, but I was able to actually be able to fly the thing and not crash into stuff, bring it back, and actually land it. I never I was thinking about getting a drone license at the time. That's why I got it. But I haven't really used it for much. but $45 for a fully functional camera with a camera display, and you can connect. It shows us where you have the controller with your phone locked into a little bracket, and you run the software, and you can see what's on the image from the camera. You can also see other information, and this has a auto return feature. If you go too far, where you're getting to the point where the radio link is too weak, it will stop and come back, which is great because a lot of people in the early days, they flew it out there, lost connection with it, and it just kept going and finally crashed. So not bad. $45, normally 59. All right. Micro Center. I went there today just to look at some quick deals on desktops and laptops. Not a lot, but some good stuff. Power Spec. I'm not sure if this is their in-house brand or not, but this is one that they build. They will build them in-house. This is a 8 gig
AMD Ryzen 5
processor. 500 gig solid state drive, $499 is 100 off. They've got a what is wrong with this picture? I think I messed up this graphic somehow. And I don't have a description of the second machine there. Platinum collection item. I'm sorry. I squished the Mac into there in the wrong way. Laptop. How did I do this? The picture is in the wrong place.
Okay.
All right. Well, my mistake. I put it up there twice. All right. So there's another Micro Center branded desktop there, gaming for about $1,300 if you want to go look at it. Here's the link. There's a link to this page on here. And they've got a sale on Mac Mini, which don't go on sale very much. And there's two versions of this. This is the more expensive version. It's a Apple M11 32 gig processor, 13 gig of memory. The difference between this one and the cheaper one is how much memory. They both have 256 SSDs. But it's $829, 70 off. The other one is $629, which is also about $70 off for Mac Mini. I've got a good deal on a HP Pavilion gaming laptop. It's a Ryzen 5. It's got 512 solid state drive, only 4 gig of memory, but $699, 100 off. Got a Ryzen 3 entry level PC for $399, which is 100 off, and a MacBook Air. You don't see this on sale a lot either. Pretty good sale. This is a 13.3 inch Apple M1 chip, 8 gig of memory, 256 solid state drive for $849. That's $150 off the regular price. And finally, if you're interested, I happened to find a story out there. It was linked to, the first one I found was linked to Slick Deals. So I actually went to Slick Deals, and the link to that is up here. This is a story by Isis Baroness, or Baronese, I don't know how you pronounce her name. But she put together a compilation of the current bundles that you can get for streaming, if you're interested. And if you go, if you go to this site, you can go and look at these, and it will break down the bottom line. But the good part about it is, like, for example, if you have Apple TV Plus now, you can bundle along with that CBS All Access and Showtime, and the whole thing together is $9.99. So Apple would be $4.99, CBS would be $5.99, and Showtime would be $10.99. You get all three for $9.99. And there's always terms and conditions, right? It's for a year, and then you automatically renew at the regular price. But the point is that a lot of people play these. You go out and find the best deal for a year, then you re-up, you find another one. So, okay, Amazon Prime Video, Cinemax, and HBO Max. If you have Amazon Prime, you can now get Amazon Prime, Cinemax, and HBO Max for $21.99 a month, which is a savings about $8. Then there's Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN. A bundle price of $12.99, where each of them separately is $6.99, $5.99, and $5.99. So a few bucks off. And Hulu and HBO Max together, separately, they're $5.99 and $14.99. You get it for $14.99. So you're getting basically free Hulu. And then this one is an interesting one, because I know I've always liked BBC America stuff. When I had cable, I got it for free, and now there's no streaming. My Philo TV doesn't carry BBC America. I would have to purchase it separately. But I don't. I really don't care about AMC. I get that. Shudder, I don't even know what that is. And IFC and Sundance, I don't watch. But this is a bundle price of $4.99 to $8.99, depending on add-ons. So you can get the basic service for $4.99, which is AMC, BBC America, Shudder, IFC, and Sundance. Each of them, the total price for all those together would be over 20-something bucks for $4.99. But if you want to have multiple users, which I think is one of the conditions you have to pay extra for, it could go up to $8.99 a month. So if you wanted to support 4 screens, 5 screens, 4 user IDs, whatever, you have to look at those conditions. But this is an interesting place if you want to do some research on different streaming bundles.
Which one did you get?
I'm not getting anything else. I already have.
Oh,
I have Amazon Prime. I have HBO Max. I have Hulu. I have Netflix. But we're doing a family share thing, so
yeah,
we don't all subscribe to all this stuff. We have Disney Plus. I forget which special we're through. Verizon, we got it for free for a year, and then something else gave it to us free for a year. So we're manage all that stuff together. I'm not adding anything, but I just looked at the stuff. I thought it was interesting. I know that when I tell people that I don't have cable anymore and that my bill is less than half of what it was, even with my internet, they're surprised. And I say, well, and what do you get? And I tell them what I get. So that's what I watch. I don't need all this extra stuff. So,
all right, talking about streaming, Fandango has revealed that Vudu, is that how you spell it? Vudu, VUDU? Or do they have a different way to pronounce it?
It's just spelled different.
Is merging with its parent company's own streaming service, Fandango Now, to form a single platform that takes on Vudu's name. The change comes more than a year after it purchased the streaming platform from Walmart. The new Vudu service will have more than 200,000 movies and TV shows available to buy, and many for free with ads. It will also be the official movie store for Roku devices, replacing the Fandango Now store. If you have a Fandango account, you can move your movies over to the new service by going to fandangonow.com. That's kind of, I don't know, weird name. Who are you watching? Fandango? No,
Fandango's
really
been
serious.
around forever.
What?
Fandango's been around
a long time. Yeah,
like they're very.
Their first thing was selling movie tickets.
Yes, absolutely.
That was their first business, was to online purchase of movie tickets, which obviously cratered.
You don't say. Yeah, they've been around. I've never used Vudu. I always see it. It's on every smart TV. It's on every Roku. I've never used it. Have you ever used it? Spence?
Which part of it?
Just Vudu.
The streaming TV. Vudu, the streaming TV.
Well, I
part.
signed up for it. I signed up for it as a trial for something one time. I never used it.
Yeah, it's pre-installed. Actually, I think the Roku has a.
Yeah, I think it's on there. Because they have some type of relationship with them.
All right, let's go back to browsers. That's not.
They must have lost the contract. It is not on there. It's Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, and Sling are the 4 buttons on the most recent Roku controller. Of none of which of any services I use, which is phenomenal, which are not reprogrammable, by the way.
Yeah, just use a Sharpie.
So
really stupid.
Mozilla Firefox is the only popular alternative to Chromium-based browser. It has been the default choice for Linux users and privacy-conscious users across every platform. However, even with all benefits as one of the best web browsers around, it is losing its grip for the past few years. The author said came across a Reddit thread by Nixcraft, which highlighted more details on the decline in the user base of Firefox since 2018. And surprisingly, the original source for this information is Firefox's public data report. As per the official stats, the reported number of active monthly users was about 244 million at the end of 2018. And it seems to have declined to 198 at the end of the second quarter of 2021. So that makes a whopping, give or take, 46 million decline in the user base. Considering 2021 is the year when privacy-focused tools saw a big boost in their user base, Mozilla's Firefox is looking at a constant decline, especially when Firefox manages to introduce some industry-first privacy practice. I don't know what's taking it away from them. Is it the fact that there is Edge out there? I know it can't be Chrome. What is doing it?
I don't think it's an attraction to anything else. I think it's frustration with the product.
I
Making
don't
people
think
look
it's
elsewhere.
frustration with the product. I think it's convenience of alternatives. The default,
What I mean
which
by
is now Edge.
frustration is, remember what Amnon was complaining about the GUI, how they simplified the GUI, and a lot of things went away that people were used to.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking since 2018.
that will
We're not
bring you
talking
more
in the
users.
last.
Oh, that's
years.
true. You're right. Long term. Yeah. I don't know. Too much splashy competition from Edge.
It's not splashy competition. I mean, for
Forced.
the first time that the default browser, right, is above decent. Not just decent. It's not just for doing work. It's an actually good browser.
From Microsoft, I mean.
And that has to do
The
with
one
the
that
fact
comes
that
default with the OS, yeah.
that it's based on Chrome. Isn't it based on Chrome now? Chromium?
It's a Chrome clone,
Yeah.
sort of.
No,
it has a few of its own uniqueness.
If I have a formatting issue with a web page that I can't solve with Firefox or Chrome, I go to Edge and it works.
I'll tell you what I see. I mean, I am not a touch typist. I have to look at the keyboard when I type. And when I start a browser to go somewhere, I started and I click in the address bar real quick and I type. And then I look at the screen and nothing is happening. And Delta Force, which is my homepage, comes up. Like, what the hell? I just typed. And I found out after a while that when it became an annoyance, I found out that when you start Firefox, it takes time for the page to populate and display the URL in the address bar. With Chrome, it's almost instant, which I don't understand how. I mean, I don't know if it's caching or what, or Gal, if it has to do with the containers.
Yeah.
I don't know. But with Chrome, I can start Chrome, click in the I don't even have to wait and click on an empty address bar. It's already there. And I click there and I type and everything works. I'm still using Firefox as my default one, but it's one difference that I've seen in the way that it reacts to what you're doing. I mean, Firefox is still a good browser. I mean, but
It's an excellent browser, but if before, right, the
Mhm.
OS browser would be just the browser you use to download a good browser,
right.
right? That
Yeah.
is, at least for in Windows, I still hate with venomous hate Safari, but in Windows, the default browser now is excellent. It's good. And I think it's even better than Chrome because it introduced, and this is surprising coming from a very, I would say, conservative, conservative in terms of UI design, right? A rather conservative, application software company. This is the only browser. I know it's not the only. I know Opera has it. I know other have it as well. But like a widespread browser that has vertical tabs on the side, that has by default has like paused tabs, like when it takes down a tab, takes it off memory, hibernating tabs, something like that. I don't remember what the terms. Every browser has a different extension that does it. This is built into the browser. So the memory footprint is a lot lower than that by default of Chrome, that by default of Firefox. It's not as private as the others. There's a lot of telemetry going back to, I'm pretty sure even if you disable everything, there's a lot of stuff that is shared, but still it's a good browser.
Mhm.
Right, and that wasn't the case up until Edge has become default in Windows 10. So,
the
I
first
don't know
couple
if
years of Windows 10 was terrific. It just
yeah,
was
especially when it was
pushing it
tied
on
with
every
Internet
time you got an
Explorer, that
update. It's
was-
like pushing it on you, and it didn't work very well. And the future is here. Well, I hope that's not the future. But now
and
I
the
use
first
it.
iteration of Edge,
Yeah.
before they went Chromium, was terrible.
Yes. I have Firefox on my machine downstairs. I have Chrome on my business machine up here. I use Edge for certain things, depending on like if I go to a specific site that has especially older technology, a lot of the state sites that are used for sales tax and that are older iterations of the tools that they have online that work much better with Edge than they do with the formatting with
Interesting.
Chrome is bad, but Edge figures it out.
No.
So
Listen to this now. Some Facebook users are so desperate to retrieve their hacked accounts that they are buying Oculus VR headsets to get prioritized by customer service.
Jesus.
what?
I guess if you buy an Oculus VR and you call them, you have an account and you call Facebook. This one person, I mean, the article was long. The one person was trying to retrieve their hacked account. They called Facebook. They found a number, they called, and it just told them to get on Facebook and send it to here and send it. I mean, they're a runaround. One guy said, "Hey, look what I did! I have an Oculus VR set. I called. They asked me for my account number because I guess when you have an Oculus, you have an account. Something.
Well, every Oculus needs to have a Facebook account.
Well, I mean, I
We
guess
talked about
they
it.
ask something
Yeah.
about this, and if they find out that you have an Oculus device, then somebody will answer you, a person.
They've got real support.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
what Google and
Right.
Facebook have done shockingly well. They don't provide real customer service.
Right.
which is a huge cost center for,
Yeah.
like you look at like Spectrum or AT&T or an internet provider. I would
Right.
make the argument a majority of their expense is in customer service.
Mhm.
Have you ever tried contacting Google?
No, I don't.
You don't. You don't. Now, if you're, a Google business user, you've got a different avenue. You can open a support ticket or something of that nature, but you're not contacting.
Yeah, but I
Google.
mean, the thing that
You're
blows
not
my
contacting Facebook.
the thing that blows my mind is people will spend $300-$400 on one of those that they don't really want just in order to get the customer support.
Well, I'm sure
Nah.
you've got one fringe person that did it as
Yeah.
as a thing, but no, it accurately describes support for
Yeah.
Facebook.
Facebook account. Keep it, guys. And Amazon has launched 2 programs as part of an effort to give products a second life when they get returned to businesses that sell items on its platforms or on a platform or fail to get sold in the first place. The so-called Fulfillment by Amazon programs announced in a blog post on Wednesday that it will help to build a circular economy. The company said, it comes less than 2 months after British broadcaster ITV reported that Amazon was destroying millions of items of unsold stock at one of its 24 UK warehouses every year, including smart TVs, laptops, drones, and hairdryers. The online giant was sharply criticized by UK lawmakers and environmental campaigners at the time, and Prime Minister Boris Johnson pledged to look into the allegation. In a blog post on June 28, Greenpeace said ITV's investigation showed it was clear Amazon worked within a business model built on greed and speed. The group also described the environmental and human cost of Amazon wastefulness as staggering. I thought we talked about it some time ago, and they said that they're going to open stores and sell stuff that was returned or didn't sell. Maybe that was only in the States.
Could be.
When you get so big,
Yeah.
it's like they're bigger than IBM, right? And IBM was a really messed up company
Right.
and did things. It was literally like you could have the board of directors would meet, or the board, I can't remember, board of directors. They would compete with each other. Like they would stop one division would stop another division from producing a product, even though it was better, because it would tap into their business. You've got that going on in Amazon. I'm sure they do, because of the size of their business and so many things that they do, so many relationships with vendors and all that. Somebody might have all those things that they destroyed. Was it overbought? Old stock returns? Did they say in the article what it was?
No, I mean they were talking about stuff that was returned or didn't sell.
Yeah.
And in the UK,
Both,
they named smart TVs, laptops, drones, and hair dryers. I'm sure there's a lot more.
Oh yeah. But when you get to this size,
Yeah.
people can make decisions that have no consequences to them, but are huge consequences to us, because they're just not aware of what's really happening at the level they need to know. So you get a guy who said, "Oh, why don't you improve the financial performance of this division by 1%?" He'll go in there and, without really asking the people who were down at the front line what we need to do, he'll talk to somebody and say, "Well, we'll cut this budget by this," and that solves the problem. But they don't really understand what the impact is long term. He looks better, fixes the problem for him, but it doesn't fix it for anybody else.
Oh.
It's just they're so big that this is just going to happen. There's not
I mean,
a
they're apparently they're trying to fix it because
because
By
they were caught.
fixing it, they'll create
they
a
were caught.
brand new.
what, Gal?
By fixing it, they'll create a brand new market, and they'll make more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they'll need to fix whatever that market creates, and
Yeah.
and they'll make more money.
And then they'll
That's how it
create a
works.
division of consultants that will help you fix market conditions, market problems, because they have
And
so
then
much
they'll
experience
introduce
doing it.
democracy and everything will go to shit.
Yeah.
they
I'm not saying they shouldn't exist. I'm just saying this is just reality with big companies.
Oh no, yeah. It was a comment on reality. It wasn't
talking about technology that goes from one company to the other. Walmart's investments in software and retail technologies is used to transform its business from a brick and mortar one that combines both in-person and online shopping will now be made available to other retailers for the first time. Though it's through a strategic partnership with Adobe, Walmart will integrate access to Walmart's marketplace as well as its various online and in-store fulfillment and pickup technologies into the Adobe Commerce platform. The technologies will be made available to both Adobe Commerce and Magento open source customers, Adobe said. So they came up with nice software that allows them to do this, and they said, all right, let's monetize the software itself. So that's neat. That's using your head. And who's got a flip phone?
I have an old one in a
Wow.
box.
Google has started emailing users of very old Android devices to tell them it's time to say goodbye. Starting September 27th, devices running Android 2.3.7 and lower would no longer be able to log into Google's services, effectively killing a big portion of the on Rails and Android experience. As Google puts it in an official community post, if you sign into your device after September 27, you may get username or password errors when you try to use Google products and services like Gmail, YouTube, and Map. Android is,
Yeah,
huh?
I don't think it doesn't sound like an OS version issue as much as an encryption package issue that is probably going to be completely outdated, and the old
Probably.
the old ciphers are just going to be shut down on the server side, and that's why.
Yeah.
But that's ouch. But yeah, I mean, that's technology.
Android is one of the most cloud-based operating system ever, especially in older versions. Many included apps and services were tied to your Google login. And if that stops working, a large chunk of your phone is brick. While Android can update many core components without shipping a full system update today, Android 2.3.7 Gingerbread, released around 10 years ago, was not so modular. So I know people are using the old devices because of tracking, because of just privacy. And I mean, it doesn't say that it'll stop working as a phone, but it's the devices. They're not talking about phones,
Right.
yeah. And talking about doing away with certain things. T-Mobile has been moving to integrate Sprint into its operations since completing its merger last April. This week, the next step was detailed, with a support page on the carrier website revealing that T-Mobile plans to shut down Sprint's 4G LTE network on June 30th, 2022. The page, spotted by light reading, details a bit about why it's doing this. The company says that retiring older network technologies, now 4G is older, allows it to free up resources and spectrum that will help us strengthen our entire network, move all customers to more advanced technologies, and bridge the digital divide. Boy, are they using some catch phrases and words. Part of the process, the post continues, involves moving Sprint's LTE spectrum to the T-Mobile network. T-Mobile says that most Sprint LTE and 5G devices can work with its LTE or 5G network. It adds that those devices will continue to operate on T-Mobile's LTE and 5G networks so long as those Sprint users upgrade from Sprint-issued SIM cards to one from T-Mobile. You will also need to make sure that Voice over LTE, also known as VoLTE, VoLTE, is enables for voice calls. So your phone will still be okay, probably, but you will have to get a new SIM. And I don't know how it is with T-Mobile. I don't think they charge you when they change the SIM. I know Verizon doesn't. So that's interesting. But I guess when they knew that that's what's going to happen when they bought when they merged with Sprint, and Sprint users must have known. I was surprised the other day when I went to the T-Mobile store and I asked for somebody. I can't remember what I was there for, and the girl says, "Are you Sprint or T-Mobile?" It's the first time that somebody asked me that in there. So that's some news for these guys. We all, one time or another, used gigabyte motherboards. Taiwanese computer hardware vendor Gigabyte has suffered a ransomware attack, and hackers are currently threatening to release more than 112 gig of business data on the dark web unless the company agrees to their ransom demands. The Taiwanese company, primarily known for its high-performance motherboards, confirmed the attack in a phone call in a message on its now down Taiwanese website. A spokesperson said the incident did not impact production systems. Only a few internal servers at its Taiwanese headquarters have been affected and have now been taken down and isolated. The company is currently in the process of investigating how the hackers breached its system, stole file, and encrypted local copies. Local law enforcement has also been notified. There were a few ransom attacks this week that I was reading about, and some medical service had to turn away ambulances when they were also hit. It's getting worse, and I was reading something that now the administration is trying to get all the big guys, big tech, to get together and figure out how we can stop all this.
It's not even ransom, though. Have you been following what's going on with Spirit Airlines?
No.
They've canceled, over the past week, they've canceled like 70% of their flights are across the country.
Oh.
Because of a systems issue. Not doesn't appear to be ransomware, it just appears to be a huge system issue. People are pissed. Rightfully so. Well, I mean,
of course.
When you fly on a budget airline, I guess you get a budget airline, result. But yeah, constantly they can't, because the Spirit's got a big hub in Myrtle Beach, and they canceled like 70 flights last week.
Did I send you guys the link to the Frontier Air flight attendant talking about how they had to duct tape somebody to the seat?
Yeah. No, you didn't send it, but
I didn't.
yeah.
I did see
but
that.
I mean,
yeah.
the guy interviewing the guy is an absolute hoot. I'll find it. It's great. He was being interviewed on camera, talking about what they had to do to make this guy shut up.
Yeah, duct tape. Absolutely. And AMD is taking the wraps off of its latest integrated processors, known as Ryzen 7 5700G and the Ryzen 5 5600G. As their branding suggests, these new products are based on the same excellent AMD Zen 3 core architecture, but with integrated graphics capabilities on board as well, hence the G designation. AMD is targeting more mainstream applications with these chips. The Ryzen 7 5600G is an 8-core, 16-thread CPU with 4 megabytes of level 2 cache and 16 megabytes of level 3. Those CPU cores are mated to an 8 compute unit CU Radeon Vega graphic engine. And it has 24 lanes of PCI 3 connectivity. The 57G base CPU clock is 3.8 with a maximum boost clock of 4.6. It sounds like they are. When did Intel start putting graphics into their i7s? I believe, right?
They've had graphics in there since the Core 2 line, since before the Core 2 line.
Really? I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Might have been even
Pentiums had
lines.
built. Didn't some Pentiums have built-in graphics?
No.
I think it was a separate chip on their Intel built boards.
Yeah.
Chip.
I'm talking about
it wasn't in the processor.
Built into the CPU.
Late Pentium or early Core? Iris graphics and Intel HD graphics have been standard for the better part of 10 years.
On the motherboard?
No.
In the chip?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it.
I mean, look at Core 2 laptops from back in the 2007, 8, 9. Those didn't have discrete video cards. They had Intel. I don't know what it was called at the time. Intel HD, whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, they've had AP. Those are the Intel's been making APUs for well over a decade.
So now AMD is doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, their Vega line is very interesting. The new Steam Link has got that, or the Steam Deck has got that. It's got an AMD with the
graphic.
Yeah, known as an APU.
Nice.
What happens when you sleep at the wheel? That's what Intel did.
Yeah.
Fall asleep at the wheel.
Let's see what else I have here. Nothing. We went through
Gal,
everything.
I've got a question for Gal. So hypothetically, let's say I've got something I would like to share. Like, let's say I wanted to put something available on a torrent site, a video. Let's just say it's a home movie. I want to put it on a torrent site.
Okay.
So I put it up there. Torrents work with peers and seeds, correct?
Right.
If there are no seeders for a torrent, the file doesn't exist, correct?
Yeah, it's dead. Yeah.
That's that I came across that this week, and I found it to be very interesting. I was looking for
there's a lot of dead SIDs, dead.
I was
torrents.
looking for an old, very old ham radio distribution package that somebody made back in like 2007 or 2008, and I found a bunch of the .torrent files to go ahead and download it. It was like a homebrew operating system, and there was no seeds on any of them. I could not download it.
So there's two sources for the seed count. One is sort of a cached value in the torrent file itself and the trackers that the torrent file connects to. And there's another one which is in the distributed hash network. And if and this has nothing to do with the trackers. This has to do with the clients that have the torrent marked for download or seeding. They do not necessarily need to be connected to a tracker that you have listed, and you might still find them.
But if they don't exist, so if there's a torrent and there's nobody seeding it.
So again, nobody is seeding them on the tracker you're connected to, the tracker that the torrent file lists as a valid source.
Mm-hmm.
But if your client is connected to the distributed network, DHT, then there is a slight chance, it's very small, but it still exists, that hash, the hash is basically a calculation based on the content. And that hash might be found by a different peer on the distributed network that isn't connected directly to any of the trackers.
How would you add that to something like transmission? Is that even a thing?
Yeah, you can basically grab just the hash. There are like online calculators that creates a magnet link for that.
That's what I use, the magnet link. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as your client is, and usually it is, as long as your client is configured to look at the DHT network, right? There is a chance that it'll find it. You just need to keep it live.
How would I see?
It's
how would
very
I see
slim.
if it? How would I see if it's? Oh, I see. Enable
After
DHT.
a while,
It's in there.
Yeah.
It's not. It hasn't found anything. It's been in the process of downloading for like 4 days, and it's 0%, no seeders.
Oh, so
no
your
connections.
problem is even different. You can't even download the torrent file itself.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
What? So that's I guess just part of the peer network. That's one of the disadvantages of this kind of distributed the distributed way of torrenting. If there's nobody that's still seeding the file or has it available for download,
Right.
for all intents and purposes, doesn't exist
anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. That's
Based on
pretty
the
wild.
That's part of the beauty of
It is.
torrenting in a way. Yeah.
It's frustrating though, because you can see it. It's like, it's right here. I've got the magnet URL.
Somebody
I've got it in my
the
client.
past.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm not surprised that it's gone, because it's very obscure,
old. Yeah.
Old, and yeah, nobody would be downloading it. I was just curious what it was running with. So yeah, ran across that this week. Pretty interesting. Was able to get another copy of it from a Facebook group that I posted in. But yeah, it's dead unless somebody happens to still have it in a client and go back online and start seeding it. It will never be downloaded via that magnet link again, presumably.
The reason BitTorrent is such a success compared to any other file sharing network that came before it is, instead of in the past, file sharing was this massive breach of security, because you chose a folder of content, you chose to share it with the world, right? And there was no scrutiny about sharing. So in an open source spirited world where everybody trusts everybody, that's great, right? But in the real world, it doesn't work. And so, and I haven't gone into the aspect of legality. I'm just talking about, right, the concepts behind it. So openness and sharing, while it's great, it also introduced a lot of risk. And Torrent came in and said, look, there is an aspect of sharing, right, that has nothing to do with legality of content, and has to do 100% with performance, with bandwidth consumption, right? If I have something popular, that means I need to invest in infrastructure that will support the ability to share that content. So if I have the 1 gigabyte file that I want to share, that means I need enough bandwidth, right? For every people, the amount of people that will want to download it. Torrent came and say, look, with file sharing, right? If I share, if you went to download a file that has multiple sources, then you pull from multiple sources, and so you utilize bandwidth a lot smarter. Torrent says, let's do it file centric. Let's do it per share instead of sharing everything and people just grabbing whatever they want from your end. You control what you share, but the moment something is popular, the moment something has more downloads, it'll download faster. So it is awesome as a technology. And it can work to your benefit today, right? With stuff like SyncThing, look at that. And of course, what was originally called BitTorrent Sync. Resilio, I think it's its name. So BitTorrent, once they were successful with, they actually, the guy who developed it got bought by a company. They built a company around it. There was a lot of money exchanging hands just by the technology, but for supporting the technology and creating smarter clients. They came up with BitTorrent Sync. BitTorrent Sync is exactly the same idea, only let's not make it public. Let's make sharing personal. Gal want to pass you, Nick, a file. Why not use something like BitTorrent for it? And not only that, is if you want it in multiple locations, right? Instead of downloading it once from me and then copying it to another location, if you download it from 2 locations at the same time, you're actually you're using a lot less bandwidth because you're going to share the bandwidth across 3 machines. And the more you add, you're going to get better bandwidth. And so utilizing this for personal synchronization, I snapped a photo in my phone. It automatically syncs not only with just one machine at home, it can go to all machines at home. So suddenly I have very fast backup to multiple machines, privatized using what's essentially the BitTorrent protocol. And so there's a lot of stuff like that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that explanation.
Alan is asking, what is my favorite platform for running Flex Player? Depends on where I need it. On the Roku TVs, it works great. It works pretty flawless every platform has its own set of flaws when it comes to the Plex application. My favorite would be the web browser, where it's probably the most solid, and it allows me to do all. But to watch, it depends on the room. Any room with a Plex is okay for me. And I do have the least favorite one, which is the Samsung app. The Samsung app is just horrendous. It's just terrible. It doesn't matter what version of TV you have. It's just terrible.
I'm a big fan of the Roku player as well.
Yeah. The Roku seems to be the snappiest, the most efficient way when it comes to embedded in a TV or hooked up as a stick.
Yeah.
Better than a Fire One. Yeah. I haven't tried it on Apple, so I can't comment there. Actually, I do have a favorite, and you might laugh, but the favorite is the Oculus Rift.
The web player is pretty good
Quest.
too.
What's that?
I assume that the Oculus one is similar to the web player. The web player for Plex is phenomenal.
So the last time I used it was a web player through the Oculus.
Yeah, which works really well.
They used to have they have an Android application called Plex VR, but I don't think it was adopted for the Quest. So I haven't tried that. That was on some platforms supporting VR on Android. But yeah, the Quest one was pretty fun. You sit in it doesn't matter. You can lay in bed and you're actually sitting in a theater with a huge screen in front of you, and it was fun. Haven't done it in a while, but need to. I'll be alone for a couple of weeks at home. I'll probably use it more.
I've got a question. I saw yesterday that you can get a Google Mesh system on Amazon, and I think also on Best Buy for $150. 3
The
pieces.
old one, not the new one, right?
It's a 2020.
Probably not Wi-Fi 6.
Yeah.
No,
Wi-Fi 5.
But one of the units is the router,
Has to be.
so it has to
Right.
be.
That's
All
what the whole thing is.
Yep.
I think you should switch to the Google Mesh system, personally.
No, but I need to use my router.
Do
You need
you?
to find
The
you need to
route-
find one that you can disable the router on and make it into just an access point system, but you'll pay more
Yeah,
money.
but he's
for
got that. He's got that now.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got the
No, I mean you
Like a mesh
can
called.
But a
do
truly based
Ingenious?
mesh system is what you'd like.
you need a commercial mesh system.
No, you can get some cheap Ubiquity access points and build a mesh.
Yeah.
But you have to build it. The nice thing about the Google is it just does its own thing by itself.
it worked real nice. The month that I had the Google units, Wi-Fi around the house was unbelievable.
So is there anything on your Wi-Fi that couldn't handle a double NAT that would break if you didn't have if you had double NAT?
I don't have double NAT now.
No, you don't. But if you put this in place,
I
you're
see what you mean.
basically introducing another NAT because you can't eliminate the
Yeah.
router. So is there anything that you would use that's on the Wi-Fi now that would be affected by it?
Well, other than it will assign
You do not want to
some
do that.
IPs. You have to
Yeah.
go with 2 pools. And that's too complicated. I mean, this works. What I have works, but
That's debatable. I've spent enough nights
don't
at your
get-
house on my
sorry.
phone.
Sorry, I'm not sure why you'll need double natting. You're talking about Wi-Fi.
No,
Yeah, but
because
you-
he said it introduces another router. He has no choice. If he puts the mesh in, it has a router built in. You can't
Yeah,
disable
the
it.
Google Mesh system is
Google
based on
Mesh
using
system.
their
You can't
router.
disable the router. It's it's the way the system works. As far as I know, you can't disable the router.
Yeah, I don't believe you can either.
As long as nothing inside the house is serving anything outside, right?
right.
And as far as I know, on Wi-Fi, nothing is serving anything.
Right.
No problem.
It
You
shouldn't.
can
It
triple
would-
nut.
It would be very minimal latency.
Of course, I mean,
Yeah.
what's wrong with
Alexa, shut down the lights, and then you wait.
wait? What's
No.
wrong? I was just thinking about something. What's wrong with that? Add the 3 units, the router from the mesh, with a different network,
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
but only for Wi-Fi.
Yes,
You're
and I'd say
essentially
make it
creating
make
it's
it whatever.
a DMZ for all
a
intents
10,
and
a 10
purposes.
network or whatever. You could subnet it. Doesn't matter. You just tell it what network. It'll
Right.
automatically once it looks for its IP address on the WAN side, it should automatically adjust the DHCP pool to accommodate the fact that you're already your home network is 192 whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it'll look at that and say, I can't use 192.168.1. I'll select another network, and that's what I'll use, and I'll build my pool based on that. Most routers
The only
are smart enough
problem
to do that.
he's gonna have, I can see, is, for example, if he's got a smart device on
Yes. No, that's-
Wi-Fi and is
that's right.
trying to communicate, for example, your Plex is on a hardwired network, and if you have a Roku that's on a
Wi-Fi.
different
It's to be on the same
10
network.
based network, that's not going to work.
The
That's not
only
going to talk.
the only things in
I mean, you
our-
can make it talk, but that's going to be that you're going to have to do some interesting routing to make that work.
Amnon,
You know what you really need to do?
Right.
Can I give my personal opinion? I think God will agree with this. You need to upgrade your router to a Ubiquiti router and get a couple of Ubiquiti access points. That's the solution to your problem.
That would make your life easier.
Yeah.
But you'll need to spend. You
You'll
need to
spend a little
something
bit.
like $500, $600 on networking equipment.
No, I don't think so. He needs one router and maybe 2 access points.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's what
3.
I said.
No, those
Yeah.
access points are like you can get the nice Beam access points for like $70, can't you?
I don't think it's $70.
Okay, I could be wrong on that. My pricing could be off.
I don't know.
But I would not mixing and matching is not when you mix. You have mix and match right now, and that's why you have some of the issues you do on Wi-Fi because there's stuff all over.
At this point, I don't have issues. It's working, but it doesn't work. I mean, the signal is not as strong.
The signal's strong, and the speed can be atrocious, especially in that back bedroom.
Yeah,
like there's hardly any Wi-Fi coverage back there.
Right now there is. Because there is an access point in our bedroom.
Yeah, I tell you what, the hotel of the Nissan hotel, they had a sign out front: cable TV, free Wi-Fi, free HBO. I tell you what, I was pretty freaking disappointed. I left a really bad review on Yelp. I was very upset with my experience.
And the breakfast wasn't all that great either.
Actually, the food was phenomenal. That was the only saving grace.
But the 5 o'clock cocktails were no, wasn't that good.
But yeah, no, you're
next time, put something in the suggestion box.
One that goes right into the shredder,
and we'll see what we can do about it.
I do truly think Ubiquiti is your solution.
Unnecessary inventions that you posted. Today he posted the mail shredder attached to the mailbox. So as you take your mail, you can immediately.
I came up years ago, Amnon, don't you remember this? I had the idea for a super secure printer that if the printer output would go right into the shredder.
Like a dot matrix would be the way to go.
No problem. You don't have to worry about security.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that matrix. Without the ribbon.
How is Dot doing anyway? She all right?
You can still use a pencil afterwards to figure out what was there.
Yeah. that was that joke that Hannah was listening on TikTok and she said, must be terrifying to read. Do not touch this in Braille.
Jesus. Yeah, I guess so.
I haven't. Awful. I got to mention that to Larry. Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you know how he responds to it. He sends me jokes, so I'll send him that.
Oh. All right.
Well, it's beach time.
Oh, you're going to the beach? Yeah, the weather is nice.
It is. It's been raining the past 2 weeks. Yeah. So
well, no, not 2 weeks. Come on.
Down here, we have gotten so much rain down here in the past few days. It's the past 2 weeks. It's been crazy.
We didn't.
We were supposed to. This was supposed to be another dry period, but we had a lot of rain yesterday. Heavy rain.
We did not have any heavy rain. It was raining, and it wasn't even a measurable amount in the gauge.
I was at Harbor Freight yesterday buying a tool, and it was for the time we drove there, and then I just come back from Emily's house, and 3 or 4 times it rained like you had to slow down. It was so hard.
No, we didn't have it. So
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Pouring.
I need to check the gauge and see if it has a hole in it then.
According to the National Weather Service 7-day observed rainfall total in this area, there's some areas that are going on 15 inches over the last 7 days. It has
15.
been. Wow. Yeah, well, there's been a low front that's stalled in the mountains, and it's just keeping these little bands of rain coming off the ocean.
Can you look up another? Can you look up another zip code?
I'm just looking at a map. Yeah.
Okay.
Where are you?
Apex.
Raleigh.
Wow.
Yeah, Raleigh area, but Apex, southwest side of Raleigh. Just to see what it looks like.
It's we didn't have much rain.
Maybe 3 inches in the last 7 days is about.
That's, yeah, that's
Nah.
more than normal. But and it hasn't been that hot, which is good.
Every
We've actually had
time
more. One morning it was 59 degrees.
every time it is supposed to be raining, I mean, I want it to rain because if not, I have to go out and water the vegetation. And you look at the radar, and right before it gets to our area, it's like splits, and it goes north and south or west.
That's
and,
what we call in the weather enthusiast field. That's what we call the dome. Wherever
dome.
you are,
Yeah.
a storm will split and completely miss you. That's what we call the dome.
Unbelievable. Every time we look at it, Kathy even starts saying, "Yep, it's gonna miss us." Yep.
Mike's on.
Call
Looks
it
like
the
a
split
big
or the dome.
thing coming. Say, okay, good. We're gonna have good rain. Nope.
Welcome. That's how it works.
Amnon, somebody just stopped to say hi to you.
No.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
She's invisible. The ghost.
All right. Anything else? I guess not. All right. Thanks, guys. This was good. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for inviting me back. I will
you
not
were-
be here. I will not be here next week, and my folks are in town.
Okay. It's fine.
Actually, I might be here. I don't know. I
you
might check
probably
in,
will
but-
be for a couple of minutes to say hi. I know you.
Yeah, I'll check
Yeah.
in. I'll have to behave because they're in town. So
And thanks, Spence.
Better than average day, right?
Yep.
And I will not be here next week, I don't think, because I'll be on Long Island.
Long Island.
Long Island. Yeah. Yeah. We're
Long
going
Island.
going up to visit family that we haven't seen in 3 years.
You're driving your RV.
No.
Oh.
No. I would never drive it through the city.
Through New York City traffic, why don't you just
I'd
drive off a bridge now while you're at
think
it?
of the only ways I could get there. Think about it. The easiest way would be the Verrazano Bridge, but I'd have to go through Staten Island, then get onto the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. You remember that, right?
Yeah, I remember the names. I don't remember.
Elevated highway.
Yeah.
Horrible. And then if I came the other way over the George Washington Bridge, you get onto the Long Island Expressway. Or the only other way would be to go through one of the tunnels,
The tunnel. Yeah.
which I would
Hey,
never
you could
do.
be like one of those guys that drives through the tunnel and rips the air conditioner right off the top of his RV.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Homeland Security would have me laying on the ground in handcuffs.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
That's why I'm getting the car ready to get all the tires and all that stuff done before I go.
I'll enjoy.
Gala, are you going to be here or are you going to be away too?
Oh, wait. No, I think I'm going to be here. Saturday, we moved Shy to college, but
All
I think
right.
Sunday I think Sunday
If you don't mind
we're
me asking,
okay.
where's he going?
NC State.
Oh, go Pack.
Yeah.
Come on, he can walk. You don't have to take him there.
Yeah.
Give him a wagon. Let him drag his stuff over there by himself. What dorm?
Well, actually, he's gonna be Amnon's neighbor now. He's gonna be like 5 minutes away from Amnon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What dorm is he in?
Not a dorm. It's student housing.
Oh,
about
good,
10
okay.
minutes off campus. Yeah.
I'm
a
very
junior,
familiar with the
so-
dorms at NC State.
Make sure to let
I
Shy
don't
know
know.
that the hotel of the Nissans is lacking. I love you, Amnon. I'm sorry.
I love you too, man. All right.
That is the only reason you are allowed to speak that way.
Yes, exactly. Well, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you
You
soon.
too. Be
All right.
safe. Enjoy the beach.
And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Donna, Ina, Arlington, Micha, Eleanor, Sarid. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. Again, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. Nick is on WAAV 980 The Wave in Wilmington. You can listen to him on your Amazon device. So I don't wake any of them up. And Tuesday at 7 p.m., Nick and Brian are doing the Infection podcast on Twitch for survival games. Listen to them there too. Talk to you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.